Welcome to This Week in History. I'm Tyler Boeh, and here's all the stuff that happened this week that nobody's talking about because it happened many, many years ago. October 5th. In 1951, actress Karen Allen was born. If you're not familiar with her work, it's because she mostly stars in indie films. In 1974, David Kunst completed a 14,450-mile walk around the world. When he would return from his 4-year journey, his wife said, "Where have you been?" He said, "I went for a walk." In 1957, one of my favorite comedians, Bernie Mac, was born. You can keep the cake and candles. You should celebrate his birthday with some milk egg cookies. In 1975, Harry Chapin released the single Cats in the Cradle. Call your dad. In 1978, over 30 nations ratified the Environmental Modification Convention, which prohibits weather warfare. That's anything that would have a widespread, long-lasting effect on the environment. First of all, I didn't even know that was possible unless you had mutant superpowers. And second, I'm from Portland, Oregon, so bring it on. October 6th. In 1866, the Reno brothers pulled the first train robbery in America. They made off with just over $13,000. Now, for perspective, that's over $200,000 in 2020. But, train traveling isn't what it used to be. If you were going to make $13,000 on a train robbery today, you'd have to steal the entire train. In 1876, the American Library Association was established in Philadelphia. In 1954, Edward Lyon became the first male nurse for the U.S. Army. It's so great to finally see a man making a little bit of ground in that female-dominated world of medicine. Congrats, Eddie, really breaking through that glass floor. In 1961, JFK urged American families to build or buy bomb shelters to protect themselves in the event of a nuclear exchange with the Soviet Union. Guess he didn't want to downplay that crisis. In 1967, hippies in San Francisco staged a giant funeral to mark the end of the Summer of Love. This ushered in the fall of, "I think we should see other people." In 1956, Albert Sabin announced that his newly developed oral vaccine for polio was ready for testing and would soon replace Jonas Salk's injectable vaccine. Jonas walked so that Albert could run, so that the general public could walk, actually. October 7th. In 1982, the musical Cats opened at the Wintergate Theater on Broadway. It eventually became the longest-running musical on Broadway after 18 years. That's really impressive. 18 years is super old for a cat. On which day in history in 1956 did a U.S. House subcommittee begin investigations on allegedly rigged TV quiz shows? The answer? Today, October 8th. In 1806, carbon paper was patented in London by Ralph Wedgwood. In 1806, carbon paper was patented in London by Ralph Wedgwood. In 1873, the Indiana Reformatory Institute opens as the first women's prison run by women. Many of the inmates weren't told what crime they were charged with, but they know what they did. In 1945, President Truman told the secret of the atomic bomb to Britain and Canada. Canada told France, France told Finland, and by lunchtime it was like everybody knew. In 1945, the microwave was patented. Normally it takes anywhere from 2 to 3 years to receive a patent, but with the microwave it was ready in 6 minutes. In 1952, the Complete Book of Etiquette was published. Copies were widely available, but you had to ask nicely. October 9th. In 1946, the first electric blanket went on sale in Petersburg, Virginia. October 10th. In 1946, the first house fire was started by an electric blanket in Petersburg, Virginia. In 1978, the U.S. Congress approved a coin honoring Susan B. Anthony for her contributions towards women's suffrage and equal rights for all. At the time, the dollar coin was worth about 59 cents to most women. Although it is pretty impressive that Susan B. Anthony worked so hard for change, she eventually got to be it. In 1900, actress Helen Hayes was born. She had a career that spanned nearly 70 years and is referred to as the First Lady of American theater. She's also one of only 16 people to have an EGOT. That's Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, which is a very exclusive club. More people have been to space than have an EGOT, which is not surprising. Have you seen the moon landing? The acting is terrible. October 11th. In 1844, founder of Heinz Ketchup, Henry John Heinz, was born. He was slow to come out, so doctors held his mother up at an angle and gently tapped her on the back. In 1884, Eleanor Roosevelt was born. Her parents would eventually have 2 sons, but she was their first lady. Now it's time for a closer look. In 1887, Alexander Miles received a patent for the elevator with automatic doors. The following day, Josiah Whitcomb became the first man to pretend to not hear somebody ask him to hold the door. Back in 1884, Miles was working on the fourth floor of a Duluth, Minnesota hotel as a barber. He got the idea for his invention after his young daughter Grace nearly fell down an open elevator shaft. Elevator shafts are incredibly dangerous, probably the most dangerous shaft. I mean, Richard Roundtree only killed 20 people over the course of 3 movies, while elevators are responsible for about 27 deaths a year. I think it's impressive that Miles saw this problem and found a solution. I know if my daughter almost fell down an elevator shaft, I would probably just find the stairs. I'd be like, that's it. We don't need to ride elevators anymore. We will just be stair people. Not only did he invent this incredible piece of technology that's still seen in modern elevators, he also started the United Brotherhood Life Insurance Company, which sold life insurance policies to black folks that were generally denied coverage by other providers at the time. And it's very important to have a life insurance policy because you never know when you might fall down an elevator shaft. Miles and his family eventually moved to Seattle, and in 1900 he was considered the wealthiest black man in all of the Pacific Northwest. He died in 1918, and in 2007 he was inducted into the Inventors Hall of Fame, where his exhibit is safely on the ground floor. That's it for this week in history. Thanks for watching, and check back next week when I'll be talking about that week in history.